Okay, we're deep into farmland now, halfway through, doing Canute stuff. And we start off with a fight scene, a pretty good one of my favorites of the animes actually. This is the type of fight I like, where you don't have the superhuman anime powers and characters don't zip around like it's nothing. Every part of the characters has its own weight and momentum, the sword arm, the shield arm, the legs, and heavy use of the shields, which is great. Canute is basically a tank here. He can't afford to make unnecessary extra movements. He has to be firm and decisive. It feels sluggish. This is a battle of skill, wits, and strategy. It's much more interesting than choreography for flashiness sake. I'm not too much of a rule of cool guy, to be honest. Cool to me is defined by practicality, efficiency, and most importantly, effortlessness. No tryharding. So when I see a fight scene being flashy by throwing unrealistic for the setting shit at me, it turns me off. All I see is a weeaboo going, "Oh my god, isn't this super rad, dude, look." But when you show me something that's not afraid of looking lame, but is confident and knows its shit, I respect that, I'm hooked. The fight of course isn't for the fight's sake either. It tells us things about the characters, through their tactics, their approaches, and feelings about combat. And it also tells us things about the setting, which are important for the themes. I'm happy that the next scene, although with inferior dialogue, as always because of the subs, but still it kept all of the dialogue here, didn't cut anything. I'm not gonna repeat Canute's characterization, I went into that last episode, and we're not gonna talk about the scene now or for a while. I'm not gonna spell it out and give anything away. Also, there's a hidden mega chat in these episodes, can you figure out which one it is? We're gonna talk about this much later on too. By the way, episode adapts chapters 75 and 76. Only 54 pages, but it doesn't feel like it because there's a lot of dialogue in these ones. Unfortunate that Olmar's finest hour didn't get an episode title though. Really, lively comedic moments here, I didn't expect it. Some Arc 3 jarring comedy rearing its ugly head. It's weird too that they double down here when they've been toning down before and in season 1, and I have been complaining about that. They're like, "Here, will you shut up now? Oh, now it's too much for you." I feel like there is a healthy in-between. And to be clear, this is faithful, but in the manga, not every moment of this is a whole page. It's mostly smaller panels that go by rather quickly and don't demand your attention. But in the anime, the full screen is dedicated for every single one of them. And the cartoony sounds added definitely don't help. It's too much. Listen, now I'm gonna say this for comedy too. Don't try hard. Never try hard. Don't try to make this artificially funny with the added cartooniness. Just do the scene normally and the idiots are still gonna be idiots. I sorta want to compliment the production too, cause all of this and most of the episode looks really great. They even put in the Olmar chapter cover. Except this big Canute pose. What happened here? This you skimped out on? Weird. You know what I'm always complaining about scenes not feeling right, but it's the reality of anime production and the magic of manga. Manga will always be consistent and everything will hit just right, because your brain also subconsciously adds to it. I feel like I have a strong direction in my mind for how every little scene, every dialogue should be executed. Gunnar says, "What if we just disbanded the standing army?" Out of the question. Cut in there. That's how this scene should play out for maximum impact. And I'm sure every person reading sees everything differently depending on their preferences. Anime is just a huge project that's incredibly difficult to steer, struggling to just apply a certain vision to at least the important bits. That's why my complaining is inevitable. On another note, I feel like I need to explain Bug Eyes a bit, cause maybe it's not that clear, I guess. So Leif has been searching for Thorfinn, and by asking around with his name and physical appearance, he found someone that matched both but wasn't the real Thorfinn, and he decided to free and adopt him. He looks a little weird to me, but that's because of how he looked in the manga in his introduction. Sadly, they didn't give him the latter Chad design. Neat voice though, I see how it fits. Anyway, the Kettle family sure is entertaining to watch. Thorgil, I heard his voice in the trailer and hated it, now in his second episode it's perfect. Fingers crossed for the next episode, cause he's important in that. Every time he's surprised by something, it makes me chuckle. You know if it surprises Thorgil, some real shit is going on. Even he's terrified of Olmar's monstrous strength. Okay, I'm gonna talk about episode 12 a bit first, and then I'm gonna talk about the story here, cause one is mostly dependent on the other. I'm back after watching it. It adapts chapter 77 and 78. Pretty good, pretty good. That doesn't mean everything hit right, there are a couple of moments that noticeably lacked. One of them is Thorgil yelling at Olmar to stand and fight. A bit less intense than I would have liked. I was waiting for him to flip. A lot of the more intimidating panels were lost in translation. And I've noticed in Season 1 too that they avoid characters screaming when it isn't Thorfinn. I don't know what it is, it's a bit lame. There are certain Askeladd and Thorkel moments that weren't done justice because of this. Aside that, I'm loving Thorgil's voice. Second scene is Olmar charging at Brod, and Brod is preparing to deflect, and then immediately the coin, and right after Olmar's sword is through his neck. In the manga, it's definitely more dynamic, cause while Brod is talking, we're shown Olmar charging, and the moment he recoils from his eye being crushed, we see a panel with Olmar right in front of him. You have a better sense of momentum and where the characters are really. I immediately felt something is missing. Otherwise, great episode. Most of it had really good animation, it looked great, nice colors and atmosphere, felt right. And a lot of focus on expressions, which I like a lot in the second season in general. This section also has my biggest or most valid criticism of Farmland, which is plot convenience coin dude. Olmar's too weak to plausibly kill someone on his own, so anime superpowers are added in so Canut's plan doesn't look incompetent and actually works first try. Only clear flaw I see in Farmland. And let's finally get into the story. Canute is scheming to steal Ketil's farm, cause he needs an excuse. Can he just march to Ketil's farm and take it by force? Yes, but that defeats the whole goddamn point. He's doing this whole thing so he avoids raising taxes and risking a Danish revolt, which itself is a solution for the costs of maintaining his occupying force in England. If he's afraid of taxes causing a revolt, imagine if people saw the king blatantly stealing the citizens' property. This is politics, not war. You can't just say, I'm the strongest, you'll do as I command, cause your strength is comprised by those people you're commanding. Canute's actions must be palatable to his vassals, so he needs an excuse. The Ketil family being criminals will do just fine. So no, they're not fucked either way, they could have gotten out of this. But Canute knows how Norsemen work. They're predictable. Olmar has been disgraced, and now that he's being humiliated, well, there's no other option for a Norseman. There's no bigger shame here than not protecting his pride with a sword. The manga also has a small panel here of Olmar remembering Thorgil and forcing this. This is a fuck up from Olmar's part, but if you think Olmar's stupid, well, you must think the same of Thorgil, right? I mean, it's the same ideal they follow, just because Thorgil's more competent. Is it more admirable to follow an ideal when it benefits you? Thorgil is a very insidious influence. Olmar's partly this way because of him, and now he's actively pushing Olmar to his death. We can look at Olmar and see how he made bad decisions here, but when everyone around you is saying 2 + 2 = 3, that's how the world is. To Olmar, his whole existence is society's perception of him, so he's either a humiliated coward who's only ever been his dad's sidekick, or a Norseman, dead or alive, and that's a simple choice. Olmar's first kill is shocking and confusing, he doesn't know what to make of it on the spot. He protected his honor, but now there's all sorts of consequences. And important bit for him, well I think it is, he hears that they let him win. Thorgil is equally a creation of Norse society, but he's actually successful. He's high on the greatness his culture has assigned to him, and the purpose of all his decisions is to remain on that high. He's all about remaining honorable and justified. When he breaks a law, it's a law that people don't really acknowledge. I always appreciate how characters in Vinland Saga are not generically smart or dumb. They're smart in specific ways. Thorgil sees when things are off, he picks up on the details. He can put together that 2 + 2 = 3. His arithmetic is on the same page with the times. He's got smarts but not wisdom, I'd say. He's the kind of guy that would vehemently refuse that he's a product of his society and that you can look at things differently and there's value in people living their lives differently. He's just as much responsible for this predicament as Olmar. He pushed him to keep on fighting, both directly and indirectly. His ideals and lifestyle have major weaknesses. Weaknesses that no doubt are part of the goal for him. Keeping your head down and moving on with your life can save you a lot of trouble, but Thorgil wouldn't have that. In fact, he welcomes the trouble it brings. It's a result of him being right and acting like a warrior should. Hardship and death are an opportunity for glory. His family, he doesn't give a fuck what they want. That's how he thinks everyone should live, and if they don't, that's their problem. Thorgil's fights are a little bit different in presentation. The anime tries to show us more his expressions, how he's enjoying this. In the manga, he unsheaths the sword and there's just carnage flying around in the next page. He's definitely a bit more of a maniac in the manga. Thorgil dual wielding here is an anime addition. The fight still exists in the manga, but with one sword. Funny thing about where this decision came from. Yukimura accidentally drew him holding his sword with a left arm in one of the panels, and it's referenced in a gag at the end of the volume, so he was made ambidextrous that way, and the anime just went off with that. So they escape with Leif, and I gotta say I really like how this scene looks, especially with a subtle rocking of the boat. And Thorgil and Leif is the kind of interaction that feels wrong to exist. I love it. In the end there's this anime edition of Thorfinn noticing Canute from miles away. It's stupid, but who cares? I'm excited and terrified about next episodes, because we're entering my favorite part of the arc, and I'm pretty sure that some stuff won't look as good as I want it, and they'll remove some stylization. And also there's the possibility that production won't be focused on them. We'll see next week.